Good morning, Dan. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining me at the B'nai B'rith 2021 Leadership Forum. It's an honor to close out this year's forum. It's been a superb virtual conference. I want to personally thank Senator Jackie Rosen from Nevada, Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, and Israeli President Isaac Herzog for taking time from their busy schedules to be with us yesterday. I also want to thank Ron Campeas and Jonathan Tobin for sharing their thoughts and experiences, two of today's leading Jewish journalists. Yesterday, we were also fortunate to hear from a renowned fellow Houstonian and 2017 B'nai B'rith Humanitarian Award winner, Dr. Peter Hotez. Dr. Hotez has been working nonstop since the beginning of the pandemic, working on a vaccine for COVID-19 and making himself available for interviews to every major newspaper and news station. I follow him on Twitter, and I can attest that his comments yesterday regarding death threats and anti-Semitism aimed at Jewish scientists were true. Sadly, his sadness is sincere when he speaks about the now 800,000 needless deaths here in the United States as a result of political anti-science and anti-vax efforts. It really did not have to be this way. Today, we owe thanks to Congressman Tom Suozzi from Glen Cove, New York, for sharing his thoughts with us. Yesterday in our board meeting, we spoke about legacies here at B'nai B'rith, and just now we heard from an Israeli legacy family with Ambassador Michael Herzog, the Israeli ambassador to the United States, joining us. Ambassador Herzog's father, Chaim, was the 6th president of Israel, and his younger brother Isaac, who we heard from yesterday, as the Israel's 11th president. Like the Herzog family, our B'nai B'rith family must remain committed to our support of Israel. We've had the opportunity to hear about our humanitarian efforts with our disaster relief work and our advocacy work for Israel and human rights at the United Nations, UNESCO, and the UN Human Rights Council. Our efforts advocating and providing housing for seniors, we positively affect so many lives around the globe every day. It is that desire to serve those in need that was the genesis of B'nai B'rith 178 years ago. Our service to others is something that I am immensely proud of. Truthfully, that is how I got started on the path that led me here to speak to you today. My father was always busy helping others. Growing up, I remember attending events with him for so many different charities across San Antonio, Texas. I remember various events for the American Heart Association that he'd gotten involved with in honor of my grandfather's death from heart disease. There was Boysville, a large orphanage in San Antonio that he supported. There was a San Antonio arm of Goodwill. His crowning achievement, though, was his membership in the San Antonio Downtown Rotary Club, which spurned him the first time he was put up for membership because he was a Jew. The second time he was put up for membership, they allowed him in. He went on to create the largest anti-school dropout program for high schools ever created in the United States, which was sorely needed in San Antonio, Texas. He raised enough money to provide thousands of scholarships to help keep at-risk students enrolled in school. But my dad decided that was not enough. He went on to create college scholarships, to raise money to create college scholarships at many of the colleges and universities in the San Antonio area. More than 85% of those students who were originally at risk of dropping out of high school not only finished high school, but went on to college and received 2-year and 4-year degrees. The largest auditorium at the University of Texas, San Antonio downtown, still bears his name. Before I was even born, my father, my uncle Art, my uncle Lou were busy working for B'nai B'rith. I was always aware of their involvement in many B'nai B'rith projects that helped both Jews and non-Jews alike in San Antonio. My Aunt Sarah had moved to Houston from San Antonio and eventually became one of the first residents of Goldberg B'nai B'rith Towers, a 302-unit federally subsidized housing project in Houston, Texas. After I'd completed my accounting degree and my law degree, I joined a law firm in Houston to do banking, securities, and real estate work. And a few years into my career, Jerry Ribnick reached out to me and asked if I would join his board of directors for Goldberg Towers, B'nai B'rith Goldberg Towers, which he had founded. Since Goldberg Towers had provided a great home for my aunt for so many years, I felt I needed to help. I'd been a member of a lodge here in Houston, and I chose to help by also becoming a member of the B'nai B'rith board of directors for that building. I served for many years, and I continue to serve as a director, as I have served as treasurer, and I also served as president throughout the years. I've seen firsthand the number of lives that B'nai B'rith Senior Housing touches, giving our tenants a quality home with services that few, if any, could afford without government help. We also take the burden off of their families, benefiting multiple generations of lives through the gift of affordable housing. I've learned so much from serving on that board and gained so many friendships. I was given the opportunity as president of Goldberg Towers to serve on the B'nai B'rith Senior Housing Committee, comprising volunteers and managers from all 38 of our buildings in the United States. I was eventually elected vice chair and then chair of that committee. I can't thank Dr. Mark Olshan, Janelle Dalton, and Evan Carmen for the countless hours they have spent training, helping management, and advocating for all our senior housing projects, and for our more than 5,000 residents and their families. I've become lifelong friends with many of my fellow volunteers from buildings all over the country, as B'nai B'rith International provides annual training conference to keep our volunteers and managers current on the best practices from HUD, as well as ways to allow residents to age in place with dignity. This morning, you heard from my friend Marvin Siflinger, one of my lifelong friends, about our senior housing efforts through the magic of video. You've gotten to see some of the many lives that we've changed positively through our work. Marvin has decades of experience in developing, managing, and subsidized housing throughout the United States, and he's used his efforts in recent years to turn our senior housing work into a substantial source of revenue for B'nai B'rith International. His efforts to help our buildings to refinance their mortgages with tax credits and better mortgages have allowed our organization to do more for our residents. Thank you, Marvin, for your friendship and for your years of work for B'nai B'rith International. During one such senior housing conference in Canada, President Moise Smith reached out to me and asked me to consider joining the executive board of directors for B'nai B'rith. I was honored, but I was unsure of what I could add at the highest level of our organization. I accepted Moise's offer and began to find my voice as a member of that August board. Eventually, I was asked to serve as treasurer and did so for 2 terms. The timing was important to the organization, as my career knowledge and experience was needed to solve problems that changes in U.S. pension law had caused. We all owe a debt to then President Alan Jacobs, who worked tirelessly to solve the problems that we had. Thanks, Alan, for your leadership and your friendship. Today, those problems are behind us, and as Chuck said yesterday, the winds are at our back. I've become an expert in wind. As more than a decade ago, I left my law practice behind to develop utility-sized wind and solar energy projects. It's been exciting for me to see B'nai B'rith taking an active role in climate change and the need to use renewable energy in our future. I want to share this cover with you. This is from 2010, when I was just starting my company. So the history of B'nai B'rith fighting for climate change around the world goes back as long as my history in renewable energy. I want to personally thank our newest honorary president, Chuck Kaufman, for asking me to work with him as his vice chair of the executive board of directors. Chuck was the perfect president to have at one of the most challenging times in our organization's history. His excellent communication skill carried our message throughout the world digitally at a time when we were unable to meet together. He was the right man at the right time. Chuck, both I and our organization owes you a tremendous debt. Thank you so much. B'nai B'rith has strengthened its finance over the last few years thanks to Chuck and Michael Gelman's efforts. We started our financial management committee during the pandemic to meet regularly and make sure that look at our current financial condition and act proactively to ensure that our finances remain strong. We continue to move from reliance on membership dues to donations from supporters of our many efforts. By creating more opportunities to support our worthy efforts, we have seen donations grow from planned giving, direct mail appeals, and most importantly, internet and social media donations. It is the digital fundraising that will continue to grow in importance to our organization and allow us to attract more new members, more supporters, and our leaders of tomorrow. Over the last couple of years, B'nai B'rith has grown into its own digital world. Sharon Bender has led a team of our professionals to build our online presence. Sharon, along with Alex King, has created online content that is second to none in quality and magnitude. As Chuck mentioned earlier, our website offers articles and videos on a wide range of important Jewish topics. We even have interviews with Jewish athletes and leaders in the sports world. There's truly something for everyone. We'll be using this content to ask for financial support from our readers and our viewers so that we can continue to provide more important and interesting content and do our work around the world in support of of worldwide jewelry. B'nai B'rith Europe has made their own significant effort and expanded their online articles and videos. Serge Dahan, president of B'nai B'rith Europe, has played a significant role in creating content of interest for our European brothers and sisters. And hopefully, so everyone around worldwide has had the opportunity to enjoy some of that content as I have. Alina Brickman, working for us in Brussels, has also produced meaningful videos and interviews that are important to worldwide Jewry. I hope to work with both of them going forward to create more impactful videos and articles to benefit Jews worldwide. I hope to use the visual tools that we have available to create regular communication between our staff and our volunteers around the world so that we can speak with one voice and support each other as we fight the growing scourge of anti-Semitism. The internet and social media has created an environment that has allowed anti-Semitism to flourish worldwide, both on the far right and the far left. Just as throughout history, we Jews are caught in the middle, as extreme politicians seek scapegoats to blame and to drive their extreme base to action. We cannot remain silent, as we know firsthand where these scapegoating efforts lead. We must stand up and speak out against each and every purveyor of hate. We cannot favor the right over the left, nor the left over the right, as both sides will sell us out to remain in power. This effort to pursue neutrality has become more difficult than ever as more politicians move toward authoritarianism. We must not assume that any politician who spouts anti-Semitic tropes with regard to support of Israel to be our friend. We must be vigilant in listening to the words and the actions of leaders around the world and note who they are tailoring their language for. As more today than at any time since the 1930s, they're trying to reach anti-Semites and racists. We must speak out against any language used to divide people. Anyone who chooses to divide people to gain or retain power have chosen to work on a slippery slope that endangers democracy and Jews worldwide. We must continue our outspoken support of Israel. The security of Israel has never been as important as it is today due to the spread of anti-Semitism. Many countries are an election away from becoming authoritarian states, and the language of hate is being normalized in ways that were unthinkable a few years ago. There must always be a strong Jewish homeland to ensure the safety of Jews worldwide. Our unwavering support does mean that we must support the democracy of Israel and the choices the citizenry of Israel make for their leaders. If there's one thing that we Jews know, is that you will not agree on every point, but you still must work together for the common good. It is through these regular communications that I hope to have the opportunity to interact with all of you and our supporters around the world as we continue to strengthen Jewry and B'nai B'rith around the world. I hope to utilize the internet and the tools that we have available to make our calendar more accessible, to make the timing of our events more accessible so that we can draw more supporters around the world. We also have a tremendous travel program, and we have missions that are very meaningful around the world, and some of which you will be hearing about more in the coming months. We hope to provide the opportunity for more of you to join us on those missions, both to support those missions and the efforts that we will take while we're on those missions, but also to support B'nai B'rith worldwide. One of the other things that we will be doing under my efforts, I hope over the next few years, is to establish a worldwide B'nai B'rith Leadership Institute. We are desperately in need of finding our leaders of tomorrow and being able to replace ourselves on our board of directors and in our positions of leaderships with younger people that we have trained and brought up to understand the meaningful efforts of B'nai B'rith and the lives that we touch around the world. We'll be speaking about that more in the future. In the meantime, I hope that you will join me in continuing to work for B'nai B'rith and helping to support our worldwide efforts in terms of advocacy for Jewry worldwide, our efforts at the United Nations, at UNESCO, and United Nations Human Rights Council, as well as our work for senior housing and advocacy for our senior citizens around the world. I hope you will share articles and work with me and suggest articles to Sharon and our team, as well as to Alina and to Serge, so that we can together create more important and impactful content for the worldwide as we share our views that are important to Israel and world Jewry. Finally, and most importantly, I'm going to ask you to join me in donating to B'nai B'rith. It's year end. It's time to make a difference. It's time to help. I'll be writing a check, and I will continue to write checks, and I hope you will too. Our work is important. It is important for us. It is important for Jews worldwide. It is important for our children and our grandchildren. Thank you for sharing this time with me, and I hope you have a very healthy and a happy, safe new year. Thank you.